The life of luxury that was my birthright was stolen by a malicious maid. I grew up in a harsh environment, witnessing every dark facet of society. After being reunited with my biological family, I was repeatedly told to yield to the fake heiress, forbidden from competing for their affection. Everyone praised Amelia Windsor, doted on since childhood as the most cherished princess of New York's Upper East Side. Every year on her birthday, subsidiaries of the Windsor Group would buzz with lavish celebrations. Meanwhile, I was starved of parental love, my life filled with ceaseless labor and unjust beatings. It wasn't until the Windsor family lawyer found me that I discovered I was the true heiress. The day I returned, only the housekeeper and driver came to pick me up. Clinging to hope for the future, I stepped into the most luxurious mansion on the block. Before meeting my family, a flicker of longing for kinship still burned in my heart. The Windsors were waiting for me in the living room. Even though I'd seen their photos and knew I resembled them, seeing them in person was still a shock. Amelia nestled in my mother's embrace, her curly hair perfect, skin flawless, eyes slightly swollen as if she'd just been crying. When she looked at me, her red-rimmed eyes flashed with pure hatred. Even with my arrival, my mother, Eleanor Windsor, gently held her hand, softly comforting her. Our family raised her to be a princess. In contrast, I wore a faded uniform washed too many times, carrying a patched-up school bag, my hands rough with calluses. Look at that resemblance, truly my daughter. William Windsor stepped forward to pat my head, his voice dripping with paternal warmth. Sophia, you've suffered. Eleanor hugged me with one arm, her eyes filled with pity. You're home now. The hard days are over. Amelia couldn't bear the scene and burst into sobs. Now that the real family is reunited, I'm just in the way. She ran to her room. Eleanor let me go and hurried after her. My brother, Alexander Windsor, also full of concern, said to me, Millie has been spoiled since she was little. She just needs time to accept this. Please be understanding. Her parents were the ones who swapped our lives. Now, because the beneficiary couldn't accept it, my family wanted the victim, me, to be understanding? How ironic. Before returning to the Windsors, Ethan Chase once asked me, once you have parents to shelter you, will you become more gentle? My answer then was, I don't know. Now, that last flicker of hope for familial love vanished. Why should I be understanding? I retorted to Alexander. He didn't expect that question and was momentarily speechless. What do I have to be understanding about? That she enjoyed 16 years of my life while I endured beatings and insults like an animal in her home? A hint of shame flashed in Alexander's eyes, but he still defended Amelia. This has nothing to do with her. Millie knew nothing. She's a victim too. I sneered and dropped the subject. So you all still want to keep her? Sophia, Dad understands your feelings, William interjected, but you know how our family is. We raised Millie. I can't bear to cast her out to suffer. He was right. You develop feelings for a pet you've raised for years, let alone a daughter you've doted on since infancy. Fine, I understand, Dad, but I am your biological daughter. She is the adopted one. I hope you don't confuse the two. Hearing this, Alexander disagreed. You and Millie are both Windsor daughters. There's no distinction. She's been feeling guilty and miserable these past few days. Calling her adopted in public, she's never faced such a shock. How could she bear it? She's never faced shock while I grew up taking beatings and insults like an animal in her home. So you think I'm tougher and can handle it, is that it? I stared straight into his eyes, cold anger beneath a calm tone. Alexander frowned. I didn't mean that. I agreed to let her stay, so don't accuse me of thinking you're inferior. Endure it once, and you can endure it again. Dad agrees with you on this. William spoke up. Alexander wanted to say more, but was stopped by a sharp look from his father. William had already investigated my past 16 years. He knew exactly how miserable my life had been. I was tearing open my own wounds for him to see, and he felt a pang of guilt. He and Alexander took me to see the room prepared for me, but I wanted to choose my own. Walking through the halls, I stopped in front of Amelia's room. Eleanor was inside, holding her, whispering comforts. Don't say such silly things. You'll always be my daughter. I won't let you leave. I acted as if I didn't see them and continued my tour. Besides the master suite, Amelia's room was the largest. Dad, I want this room. I like the sunlight, and I want to change all the furniture. Hearing this, Amelia, who had just stopped crying, wailed again, threatening to leave. Eleanor comforted her while saying to me, "This is Millie's room. I've prepared a room for you. Let your brother show you." "Come on, I'll take you," Alexander said, reaching for me. I stepped back, avoiding his hand. "I've seen that other room. It's too small compared to this one. I don't want it." My gaze at Eleanor was distant and cold. The adopted daughter gets the large room, the biological daughter gets the small one? What kind of logic is that? "What adopted daughter? You and Millie are both Windsor daughters. I know you're upset, but Millie is a victim too," Eleanor replied, clearly thinking I was making a scene. "I'm not a Windsor daughter. Let me go. Give the room back to her." Amelia sobbed, demanding to leave, but was held back by Alexander. "You'll always be my sister. No one can drive you away." What a touching family drama. Their bond was deep and unbreakable, and I was clearly being cast as the villain. Mom and brother both say she's the victim. For 16 years, she lived as the beloved, pampered jewel of this family, while I took her place as the dog, the pig. No, that's not right. Her biological parents loved her too. Otherwise, they wouldn't have swapped me with her. Even if our lives hadn't been switched, her life wouldn't have been as tragic as mine. Beaten and cursed at will, I worked to pay for my own school fees all these years. They only let me study because the higher my education, the higher the bride price they could get later. Luckily, heaven has eyes, letting me return to the Windsor family. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to escape them. I'm back, but everyone has feelings for the fake daughter. You want to keep her. The Windsor family is this wealthy. She'll continue living in luxury. She's clearly the biggest beneficiary, yet you call her a victim. Now my own mother and brother want me in the small room while she keeps the large one. I'd like to be that kind of victim too. The sarcasm in my eyes was unconcealed. My words made them silent. Even Amelia stopped crying. I didn't want to look at them anymore. Turning to William, my tone softened. "Dad, can the furniture in this room be replaced within 3 hours?" I was a porcupine with everyone else, but when I looked at him, my eyes held a trace of dependence, because he was the one who held the real power in the Windsor family. "Of course. Don't worry. I'll arrange everything," William agreed. With money, things move fast. With gentle coaxing from Eleanor and Alexander, a red-eyed Amelia moved into the room originally prepared for me. William felt guilty towards me, but he also didn't want family discord and advised me to get along with Amelia. Left alone with him in the living room, I slowly shed my tough exterior, revealing a pained expression, tears welling in my eyes. "Sophia, good girl, Dad knows you've been wronged." I stubbornly wiped my tears. "Dad, Mom and Alex are so biased. They don't care about me. I don't like them. From today on, you're my only family." "What's this nonsense this child is saying?" William tried to defend them, but the smile at the corner of his mouth couldn't hide his pleasure and pride. Clearly, Mom and brother cared about me very much. At dinner, Amelia locked herself in her room. I ate calmly, completely unbothered. No matter how worried Eleanor and Alexander were, no matter how they shielded Amelia, I ignored them. Only when William spoke to me did I cheerfully reply. Tonight's feast was to welcome me home. The food was delicious, and I ate until I was full. Watching me eat so heartily, Eleanor's eyes showed a trace of pity. "Sophia, eat slowly. Eating too much at night isn't good for your stomach." But immediately, she thought of her other daughter suffering without appetite. "Millie is a good girl. She's just in shock, trapped for the moment." "Don't blame her, Mom. Mom, don't say any more." Alexander's tone was cold and unpleasant. "She doesn't care what you say anyway." I completely agreed with him. I didn't want to respond to anything Eleanor said either. Perhaps she felt guilty towards me and wanted to make it up to me later, but between me and Amelia, she would always favor Amelia. And Amelia would definitely not allow me to get close to her. She would constantly stir up trouble. My faith in and longing for parental love had been almost extinguished by the beatings and abuse from Amelia's biological parents. I myself disliked being at a disadvantage and didn't want to suffer in the future. Therefore, the only person I needed to build a relationship with in this family was William Windsor. Dad, I'm finished. May I be excused to my room? I only looked at him. Thinking I was still sulking, William instructed, Remember to sleep early. Tomorrow you need to go to school to complete the enrollment procedures. Yes. Eleanor seemed saddened by my attitude. Alexander looked furious. As soon as I connected to the internet, countless messages flooded in, all asking if the Windsors were treating me well. I only opened the chat with Ethan Chase. Everything is under control, don't worry. He replied almost instantly. Why would I worry? The ones who should worry are the Windsors. Seems they still disappointed you. My fingers brushed over a row of expensive designer handbags, a faint smile touching my lips. The Windsor fortune hasn't disappointed me. I'm quite satisfied with everything at the moment. Amelia wasn't completely foolish. After the room incident, she was much subdued the next morning. Eleanor and Alexander looked at her with heartache. William seemed pleased and even said at breakfast he wanted Amelia to look after me at school. Amelia agreed obediently, but as soon as we got in the car, her attitude changed. She looked at me with arrogance, her tone laced with implication. I'll take very good care of you. Is that so? I'm looking forward to it. I smiled back. At this top-tier elite academy in New York, Amelia was considered queen. The Windsor family's influence meant no one dared to contradict her. When an unfamiliar face like mine followed her into school, everyone cast curious glances. Someone familiar asked Amelia, Who is she? Haven't seen her before. Is she family? Riding with you? Hearing the word family, Amelia's face turned cold. Just a stray pup, I picked up. As soon as the words left her mouth, the looks directed at me turned strange and dark. I went to the homeroom teacher's office first. During morning study hall, the teacher led me to the podium to introduce myself. My eyesight is excellent. As soon as I entered the classroom, I saw the only empty desk, its new textbooks torn and smeared with yogurt, a complete mess. The young masters and misses below watched with amused anticipation, waiting for a good show. Amelia was in my class. She smirked, looking at me provocatively. To be honest, I hadn't expected her to be this stupid. Standing on the podium, I offered a gentle smile. Hello, everyone. I'm Sophia Windsor. My father is William Windsor of the Windsor Group. I am his only biological daughter. I clearly saw Amelia's face growing uglier. Amelia's biological mother was formerly my family's nanny. She cruelly swapped our lives. My parents are very kind. They adopted Amelia. She can continue living with our family. Hearing this shocking story of switched lives among the elite, the classmates were utterly astonished. They looked from me to Amelia. Is it true? So Amelia Windsor is the fake heiress? You have to admit, the new girl looks a lot like the Windsors. Amelia couldn't stand the gossip. Shut up, she shouted. The class instantly fell silent. I met her hateful gaze, walked to the messy desk, and looked around. No one dared to meet my eyes. What's this? I asked, smiling. The homeroom teacher's face changed, immediately ordering the desk and chair to be replaced. A few boys stood up to help, quickly bringing me a new set and new textbooks. Amelia sat right behind me, gritting her teeth to whisper, How dare you spread this without our parents' permission? They won't forgive you. Her foolishness almost made me laugh. I'm their biological daughter. I'm just stating facts. What can they do to me? My words stabbed at Amelia's deepest fear. Her voice turned vicious. I'll show you who the real Windsor heiress is. As soon as class ended, she left and didn't return for the next 2 periods. At lunch, a male student passed me a note. Sullivan Hunt wanted to see me in the student council office. The Windsors and Hunt families were the 2 most powerful in New York. Sullivan Hunt was the heir to the Hunt empire. He and Amelia had been childhood sweethearts, their engagement arranged from a young age, their bond deep. No one doubted Amelia had complained to me to him. He was summoning me to defend her. The heir to the Hunt family doting on her like this, no wonder Amelia dared to be so arrogant with me. The student council at this school was run by the heirs of the top families in the city. I was eager to see them. The school reserved an entire building for the student council. As its users were all heirs of major corporations, it was the most luxurious building on campus. Walking through it, I savored the pleasure that money and power brought. Before, I was just a poor girl struggling at the bottom of this city. Now I stood at the pinnacle of wealth and influence. The elevator took me straight to the top floor, where the wealthiest and most powerful heirs were gathered on sofas by the floor-to-ceiling curved windows. Sullivan Hunt and Amelia sat at the center. In front of Sullivan, Amelia was completely soft and pitiable, leaning against him, fragile as a willow needing protection. William gently stroked her hair, his gaze full of pity. So, she really dared to come. Quite bold, someone sneered as soon as seeing me, as if watching a joke. Everyone immediately looked at me. Sullivan's gaze was icy, his handsome face stormy. I'd heard people talk about him back in my old school, saying the Hunt heir was so good-looking he could step into entertainment. Seeing him in person, those rumors weren't exaggerated. I assessed him with an appreciative glance, then looked at the other council members. These heirs were all good-looking. See us and don't even greet us? No manners? A boy tapped the floor with a baseball bat, his lips curling into a malicious smile. I recalled his info. Jason Jang, the youngest son of the Jang family, childhood friend of Sullivan Hunt, and one of the school's top 3 most popular boys. But the Jang family had long been in decline. His status here was granted by Sullivan. He started the trouble, and everyone else watched with interest. I stood alone in the middle of the hall, my presence unwavering. You want me to greet you? Just who do you think you are? When Jason Jang realized who I was, the smile froze on his lips. Cat got your tongue? Didn't you want me to greet you? Hurry up and introduce yourself so I know how to address you. I wasn't letting him off. Every word was heavy with pressure. Even his father wouldn't dare speak to me like that now. Just because Sullivan backed him, he dared to act superior? Sis, Jason was just joking. Amelia spoke up softly in his defense. Immediately, Jason looked at her gratefully, while Sullivan's expression grew even darker. Just joking? So I misunderstood. Then can I joke like this with him every day from now on? Amelia pretended to be afraid. Sis, please don't be like that. Who's older is still unclear. Don't call me sis so casually. I showed impatience, my tone dripping with disdain. Our family raised you for so many years, never treated you poorly. Who would have thought when I'm bullied, you not only don't help, but defend an outsider, truly ungrateful. Hearing this, Amelia began to sob, tears streaming. Sullivan couldn't bear to see his beloved wronged, his hand clenched, his voice low as he commanded. Except for the parents, everyone present understood the meaning, but no one dared answer. Surprise showed on Alexander and Sullivan's faces. They looked at Amelia. Amelia panicked, shaking her head, but the recording was there. She didn't know how to explain. Eleanor asked her in horror, "Millie, why would you say that about Sophia?" Blood truly is a miraculous thing. Her biological parents called me a dog, she calls me a dog. So similar, I said sarcastically. Hearing this, Eleanor and Alexander felt guilty, but they thought family ugliness shouldn't be aired in public and tried to stop me. Sophia, let's talk at home. You scolded me in front of so many people just now, didn't see anything wrong with that. Why is it when it's unfavorable for Amelia you want me to shut up? You're truly her good mother and brother. My tone was mocking. Eleanor paled at my words. She tried to explain. In my heart, you're both the same. I gave a short laugh and continued. Before coming to this school, I followed its forum. Amelia is called the Queen. After she labeled me a pup, people in the forum were excited. They were all thinking of ways to torment me to please her. I showed them screenshots. Want to join the group? I'll share it with you. No one answered. Don't want to? All right then. The students at this school are very efficient. When the homeroom teacher took me to class, the desk prepared for me was covered in yogurt and soda. New textbooks were torn. But the teachers here are efficient too. I asked the homeroom teacher to help extract surveillance footage. By the end of second period, I had the security footage. I opened the surveillance video for them. You really don't want to join the group? I don't think watching is clear enough. The present council members wore expressions of disbelief. They had bullied many people, but this was the first time they met someone like me who liked to keep evidence. Amelia sat right behind me, smiling as she watched them tear my books. Truly, the Windsor family spent money raising a wolf in sheep's clothing. Watching the video, I continued. To protect myself, I publicly announced my identity as the Windsor biological daughter to my classmates. Amelia wasn't happy. She threatened to show me who the real Windsor daughter was. Then she skipped class and ran out. It seems she went to find Sullivan then. Mentioning Sullivan, the corner of my mouth curled into a mocking smile, and I played another recording. Who said is looking for you? Sullivan Hunt is looking for you. Hurry to the student council office. If you're late, he'll be angry. Everyone was shocked. She even recorded this? I raised an eyebrow, saying nothing. Having lived all these years, I never fought a battle unprepared. Sullivan's warnings and life threats were all fully recorded. Mrs. Hunt was smart. She easily saw Amelia continuously adding fuel to the fire. Seeing her actions exposed, Amelia could only cry and admit, "I'm sorry, I was just too scared. I was afraid people would look down on me once they knew I wasn't biological. She just returned and took my room. I was afraid she'd take everything from me, drive me away. I was so scared." Amelia sobbed helplessly. She'd been doted on since childhood, never suffered any grievance. These past 2 days, she'd cried almost all the tears of her life. Eleanor and Alexander's hearts softened. Alexander said to me, "I understand now. Sophia, you were wronged." "All right, Sophia, don't say any more. Mom will take you to the hospital to check your face." Hearing that, I laughed, then called the police right in front of them. Alexander rushed over to snatch my phone. Without hesitation, I slapped him squarely. Under his stunned gaze, I recited the address to the police. After hanging up, I looked at him coldly. This isn't over. I then looked at Sullivan and asked, "You said I laid hands on Amelia first, so you hit me. Now tell me, how did I lay hands on her? Did I hit her or kick her?" My questioning attitude was extremely aggressive. Even the arrogant Sullivan was momentarily intimidated, unsure how to answer. "You won't say. Then I will. She came to grab me, I brushed her hand away. Is that called laying hands? I was beaten like this, and my family only knows to tell me to shut up and endure. You won't give me justice? The police will." My past life was all about being bullied. I've had enough of those days. Now I have a father. I am the Windsor biological daughter. Don't think you can bully me anymore. On the last sentence, I almost shouted. After shouting, tears fell. I stubbornly wiped them away with my sleeve. I always thought I looked down on everything, but some things still weighed heavily on me. In the main hall, everyone seemed scared by me, the silence terrifying. Eleanor showed remorse, crying and trying to hold me, but I brushed her hand away. Alexander looked at me with a complicated gaze, seeming to want to say something, but ultimately silent. I had reported the incident. Mrs. Hunt couldn't ignore it anymore and stepped forward to apologize for her son. Unexpectedly, I thanked her. "What? Thank me for what?" Mrs. Hunt looked surprised. "Why, thank you," I replied. "Because you're the only one who asked the school doctor about my injuries. I'm very grateful for your concern." My eyes were slightly red, holding back tears. Though Mrs. Hunt inwardly resented me for calling the police, seeing me so pitiful, she couldn't help but soften. "I'm very grateful, Auntie. But Sullivan is grown. He needs to take responsibility for his actions." Mrs. Hunt couldn't say more. Saying more would be inappropriate. I raised my head, trying to hold back tears, and quickly left the hall. Alexander chased after me and grabbed my hand outside the elevator, his tone helpless. "Do you have to do this?" He argued, "This is indeed Millie's fault. She doesn't feel secure. She's afraid you'll drive her away, so she wanted to strike first." Then he promised that back at home, he'd make her apologize to me. I jerked my hand away, disgustedly brushing where he touched as if it were dirty. "Stop pretending. Alexander, you graduated from this school. Don't tell me you don't know what pup means." Alexander fell silent at my words. "You've been blaming Mom and me all along, haven't you?" I shook my head. "No," I said it. "Blood is a miraculous thing. You and I are alike." I added, "If the one switched back then were you, after you were taken back, you'd definitely protect your adopted brother." I stepped into the elevator and pressed the close button. Alexander intended to push in to continue arguing. I advised him to not get involved with me, or I wouldn't be able to control my mouth. A wealthy Heiress encounters school violence. The Hunt Crown Prince shields the fake Heiress. Any of these topics would attract countless attention. Hearing this, Alexander hesitated and warned me not to act recklessly. The elevator door closed as I wished. Silly brother. Of course I knew Amelia wanted to intimidate me because my goal and hers were the same after all. All the people on the top floor were taken away by the police. These heirs, carefully nurtured since childhood to be successors, were in a police station for the first time. My injury assessment was minor injury. The police informed Mrs. Hunt of this result. They advised sincere apology and attempted reconciliation. If I refused to forgive her, her son would be detained. Hearing about detention, Amelia was even more anxious than Mrs. Hunt. Sullivan was injured too. She wanted Sullivan to get assessed too, but his injuries were too private, so Sullivan shook his head, refusing, only silently watching me. Mrs. Hunt dragged him before me to apologize. Sullivan pursed his lips, refusing to bow his head. Eleanor and Alexander also spoke up for Sullivan. The Windsor and Hunt families were superficially close. No one wanted to offend the other. I sat coldly on a chair in the mediation room, yielding to no one's persuasion, until the matter reached the true power holders of both families. When William arrived, anger was written on his brow. My insistence on not letting Sullivan off was, in his eyes, an impulsive act. I remained cold, but the moment I saw him, I suddenly shed all defenses, my face full of grievance, tears falling as I rushed into his arms. The words he intended to say were choked by my tears. "Dad, you're finally here. They all bullied me." My rapid change in attitude left Eleanor and Alexander, who were trying to persuade me, flustered. Crying, I recounted the whole story to William, looking up at him with trusting eyes. "I was always bullied before. Now I have a dad. You'll be my support." My attitude pleased him. William gently patted my back, whispering comfort. "Sophia, you've been wronged. Of course Dad will be your support." Mr. Hunt seemed to be scolding Sullivan. Sullivan looked unwilling, his gaze at me full of undisguised disgust and hatred. This was probably the most humiliating moment in the Hunt heir's life. I pretended to be scared by his look, crying as I said, "His eyes are so scary, he'll definitely hit me at school again." Mr. Hunt was furious, kicking Sullivan and telling him to apologize to me. Sullivan still refused to bow. Seeing Mr. Hunt about to kick again, Mrs. Hunt hurriedly stepped between them. "He's stubborn like this. What good does kicking him do?" The police suggested separating us temporarily, then slowly persuading each side. Mrs. Hunt pulled Sullivan away. Others were called out by police. Soon, only William and I were left in the mediation room. I knew William couldn't confront the Hunts for me, so after crying a while, I stubbornly dried my tears, conveniently brushing my hair behind my ear, fully revealing my swollen red cheek to William, then spoke first. "Dad, in this world, only you are good to me. I don't want to make things difficult for you." I agreed to sign the mediation agreement. The daughter who was a porcupine to outsiders was willing to endure grievance for him. This couldn't help but move William. "Good girl, Sophia." "But Dad, if he isn't taught a lesson, he'll definitely still bully me at school." A glint flashed in William's eyes. "Don't worry. I'll definitely have Mr. Hunt punish Sullivan so he won't dare bully you again." I just hinted a little. This old fox immediately understood. After talking with Mr. Hunt outside for a long time, he returned with a bright face and good mood, surely having gained some advantage. Mr. Hunt has to pay up. Of course he'll punish Sullivan when they get home. After returning home, William carefully reviewed the evidence I gave the police. Amelia anxiously clenched her hands, tears of helplessness welling in her eyes. After understanding everything, William sternly scolded her, froze her cards, and made her apologize to me. This daughter he'd raised as a jewel since childhood. Though disappointed, he hadn't abandoned her yet. My attitude was firm. I didn't accept Amelia's apology. I don't want to make things difficult for Dad, so I won't pursue this further. You stole my identity to get this current life. Our whole family is your benefactor. I hope you won't do such ungrateful things again." Hearing this, Amelia's face was extremely ugly, tears streaming immediately. Alexander couldn't help but defend her. "Millie already apologized. Why do you have to say such harsh words?" I gave a short laugh. "Speaking of harsh, I'm not as harsh as you. Those people in the student council dared to insult me. Wasn't it all because you signaled first? With your reputation in our circles, if you valued me as a sister, would Sullivan dare lay hands on me? On my birthday, the one who deliberately humiliated me in front of everyone was you, right? How do you have the face to say these hypocritical words?" I didn't want to tangle with them anymore. Pleading tired, I went to my room to rest. At dinner, Amelia came knocking. As soon as she saw me, her eyes were venomous. "You started recording as soon as you entered. You did it on purpose, didn't you, you vicious woman? You tricked us all." I just smiled without speaking, suddenly reaching into her coat pocket, pulling out her phone. Sure enough, it was recording. After stopping it, I laughed so hard I leaned against the door. "Idiot!" I threw her phone that. "Now you know what kind of person I am. From now on, keep your tail tucked. Stop putting on stupid shows in front of me." She glared at me resentfully. Having laughed enough, I immediately closed the door. As I passed, I whispered, "Played the Windsor Heiress for over a decade, yet still have to rely on men to deal with me. You truly are useless." Then, regardless of her expression behind me, I happily went downstairs. At dinner, Amelia ate very cautiously, occasionally observing my expression before daring to take food, making Eleanor and Alexander's hearts ache. William also couldn't bear to see her like that, actively serving her food, saying, "In our house, eat whatever you like." Amelia nodded emotionally. As she was about to say something, I cut her off with one sentence. "Dad, I want to join the student council." Hearing this, Amelia's face showed shock, her fingers gripping the chopsticks so tight they turned white. "Sure, I'll arrange it for you." The Windsor family donated a large sum to the school every year. Joining the student council was just a word. Amelia and I both became student council vice presidents. The only difference, Amelia willingly became vice president. I, due to less management experience than Sullivan, couldn't replace him yet. This elite school was like a miniature society. Before, many tried to bully me to please Amelia. Now, knowing my true identity, they switched to flattery. I didn't hold grudges, accepting many followers, quickly building my own power within the school. With the prerequisite of not letting grades slip behind, I worked hard on English and hired famous golf and tennis coaches for private lessons, practicing diligently every day. Life was very busy. Recently, Eleanor kept trying to reconcile with me, but Amelia was always by her side, deliberately distorting and causing discord, making her fall for it every time. Often I felt it was a waste of time. I didn't even want to hear her out. Alexander, with his proud personality, wasn't one to easily bow his head. Occasionally, he indifferently asked about my situation. I also answered perfunctorily, not wanting to talk much. After being exposed by me, Amelia became unusually obedient, putting effort into acting cute and currying favor, striving to mend relations with the Windsor family. She often flaunted the favor she received in front of me. Many felt indignant on my behalf, but I didn't care at all. Amelia grew up with the Windsor family's love and care since childhood. I could never replace that affection. Though they felt somewhat guilty towards me, I knew in their hearts they still favored her more. Daily entanglement with Amelia was foolish and a waste of time. Their guilt and concessions should be used for more meaningful things. That day, I accidentally ran into Sullivan and Nemanja at the familiar tennis club. I acted as if I didn't see them and left directly, but Sullivan called me back. "Sophia." His voice was cold, his eyes clearly annoyed. "I will not be engaged to you. My fiancé can only be Millie." I understood immediately. This wasn't a coincidence. They deliberately sought me out. Amelia stood by his side, eyes teary. "Sis, please don't come between us." The Hunts changing the engagement target was within my expectations. After all, what the Hunts truly wanted were the shares the Windsor daughter would bring as dowry. Though Amelia was still raised by the Windsors, how many shares she could get was unclear. I didn't expect this to happen so quickly. Amelia and I were only juniors. Perhaps it was too hasty. Amelia had been the Windsor daughter for so many years, yet didn't even understand the Hunts' purpose. When trouble came, she only knew to find and bother me, truly foolish and useless. "Why did you two come find me?" My tone was indifferent, as if I didn't care about this matter. "Stop pretending. I warn you to stop your dirty tricks behind Uncle William's back." These words came from the future heir of the Hunt family. Even I, newly stepping into high society, could see it. How could Sullivan not know? Whether he didn't want to believe or was truly foolish, I wasn't very interested. "You two should remember clearly, I am the Windsor's biological daughter. And you?" I looked at Amelia with a contemptuous smile. "You're just a little pet our family raised. Don't dream of things that don't belong to you." Both were provoked. Sullivan angrily declared he would never marry a vicious woman like me. His fiancée could only be Amelia. I was satisfied with his reaction, adding fuel to the fire. "Young Master Hunt, just talking is useless. If you have the ability, convince your parents not to change the engagement target." He was left speechless with me, his face dark as ink. Before leaving, I sneered. "Do your best. I look forward to the engagement party." A blatant provocation. Sullivan, provoked by me, indeed made a scene at the Hunt home. Amelia also cried daily at home, wanting to prove to me the Windsor family's favor towards her. Regarding her engagement to Sullivan, the Windsor family all agreed. For William, marrying off the adopted daughter would allow him to legitimately keep those shares. For Eleanor and Alexander, Amelia and Sullivan were childhood sweethearts with deep feelings. Entrusting Amelia to Sullivan would reassure them more. Regarding this, the Windsor family took turns talking to me. William praised my academic achievements, saying I was still young, should focus on studies, not think about this. He was very proud of me. Eleanor showed me photo albums of the two growing up, advising me not to interfere with Sullivan and Amelia's relationship. Alexander said he'd find me an outstanding man like Sullivan later. Amelia told them I liked Sullivan, and they believed it. Rumors spread in school that I liked Sullivan. Some even said everything I did was just to attract Sullivan's attention. We were all Windsor family people. Alexander and Sullivan were equally famous young masters, while I and Amelia were just Sullivan's choice. This made others mock. The midterm exam results came out. I ranked first in the entire grade, over 40 points ahead of second, the highest score since the elite school's founding. Alexander, back then, only made top 20. His college entrance exam scores just enough for Ivy League, far worse than mine. But in their eyes, sons were born heirs, deserving all family resources. Daughters were outwardly doted on, but not shared any real power. At the right age, they had to marry to assist their brother's career. I didn't grow up in their honeyed environment. Their doting mattered little to me. After marriage, I could live a life without worrying about food or clothing, but everything would depend on others' charity, living on others' whims. Before was different. Then I was stuck in the mud. As long as someone pulled me out, I was willing to pay any price. But now I was the Windsor heiress. Legally, Alexander and I had equal inheritance rights. Having lived at the bottom of society too long, I wouldn't give up any chance to climb up. Sullivan was the Hunt's only son. His parents didn't want to be too harsh, so superficially they conceded, only saying they were still too young to discuss this after college. When Amelia ran to tell me this, I was practicing tennis. After hearing, I just hummed and continued practicing. My indifferent attitude made her stomp in anger. Though the Hunts conceded, she still felt insecure, always targeting me. I guess she thought as long as I was ruined, the Hunts would never accept me. The person she hired acted quickly. Soon, a post titled, "Exposing the Elite Heiress's Past Love Affairs" blew up on the school forum, attracting thousands of comments. The poster claimed to be my former classmate. The post included secretly taken photos of me with male classmates from middle school. Though the actions in the photos weren't overly intimate, they weren't completely innocent either. Me accepting a ride from this one, handing water to that one, even privately chatting with someone in a secluded corner. The poster used these photos to fabricate countless false details. The end even mentioned Ethan Chase, the top school's popular guy, speculating he was my current boyfriend. Due to Amelia's deliberate incitement, the post rapidly spread. Even Ethan knew. He proactively contacted me, asking, "Need any help?" I replied, "No need to bother. Even without the Hunts, there are still the Lees, the Chens, the Smiths. The Windsors can always find allies. I just hope Amelia makes a bigger scene, so I'm ruined and no one dares marry me." I heard elite circles are complicated. Are you having a hard time? I wasn't having a hard time. Life with money and power is extremely enjoyable. I'm doing very well. I paused, typing here. "You've taken care of me very well over the years. I transferred $20 million to him. Consider this my thanks. Let's not contact anymore." Then I deleted all old classmates and left the pinned group chat of several years. Ethan was right. Elite circles are indeed deep. I didn't want to endanger him. This was perhaps my last shred of conscience. He didn't accept the money. After 24 hours, it automatically returned to my account. With his personality, he was probably angry I tainted the feelings between us. Sometimes I quite admired him. His family never let him suffer, to the extent he didn't need money for the sake of feelings. The post's influence grew, finally reaching the elders of the Windsor and Hunt families. William called me to talk. In front of him, I maintained my usual obedient image, saying grievously, "They were just classmates. There's no other relation. Since middle school, I worked while studying. Pressure at the top school was huge. To maintain my ranking every day, besides work, I only studied. How would I have time for such pointless things? I always ranked top 5 at the top school. After returning to the Windsor family, I often studied past midnight. Of course, he believed me. Dad, I'm about to participate in a math competition. I don't want this to affect me. Can you help resolve it?" He nodded in agreement, showing concern for my math competition. After I left the study, the housekeeper said Eleanor was waiting for me in the music room. She had something to ask. Eleanor and Alexander were guiding Amelia in piano practice. Noticing my arrival, the three turned off their smiles. Amelia slightly tilted her head to look at me, the corner of her eye slightly raised, her face full of schadenfreude. "Sis is here. What's the matter?" I ignored her, looking at Eleanor. "What's with that post?" Alexander spoke before Eleanor, seriously asking me. Eleanor said, "Sophia, you're still young. You should focus on studying now. Whatever happened before, don't contact them anymore." "So it's about this? I don't understand what's worth asking. Brother has had quite a few girlfriends too. Even now, classmates often mention him and Miss Lynn." I spoke very naturally. "If you're not popular, you're wasting your life, let alone a beautiful, wealthy heiress like me. Too many pursue me. But don't worry, I know my limits. I won't let inferior men step through the door." "What nonsense are you talking about?" The three opposite looked at me as if I was crazy. "I'm speaking standard language." Eleanor and Alexander slightly opened their mouths, seeming to want to say something. I immediately cut them off. "One of you has ex-girlfriends too many to count. The other spends every day stealing a future husband for your underage adopted daughter. I really don't know what qualifications you have to talk to me about this." I glanced at Amelia again. "And this idiot you raised, aside from relying on men, only knows to fabricate rumors about me online. Useless." Having said that, regardless of their reaction, I turned and left. Amelia questioned grievously, "It wasn't me. I'm not like that. How could you think of me that way?" Alexander said, "She's crazy. Don't mind her." Alexander had warned Amelia I was crazy, but she seemed not to take it to heart. One day after school, one of her lackeys suddenly rushed in front of me, loudly saying, "Sophia Windsor, I saw Ethan Chase from the top school at the school gate. Is he here for you?" This immediately attracted the attention of everyone around. I clearly understood Ethan's personality. After the post incident, he couldn't proactively come find me. His appearance at the school gate, I was sure someone was behind it. Pushing through the crowd, I looked towards Amelia standing on the stairs. She stood with Sullivan, her face full of indignation, her mouth constantly spewing inflammatory words. Actually, I could guess, probably saying I wasn't pure, making Sullivan hate me more. I tuned out the surrounding questions, walking straight towards her. Seeing me approach, she angrily asked in front of everyone, "Sis, didn't Mom say she doesn't allow you to associate with them anymore?" I slightly curled my lip. "You really like calling me sis, huh? But good little sister, this time you've overplayed your hand." Things Amelia did before were beneficial to me. I happily went with the flow. But I had decided to let Ethan go. How could she drag him into this muddy water, displeasing me? I grabbed her hair, forcefully pulling her before me. Before anyone could react, I slapped her face several times. It had been a while since I used my hands. Giving a few slaps made my mood much more refreshed. Gasps and Sullivan's angry roar sounded around. A powerful fist swung towards me. I let go of Amelia, stepping back to avoid it, my voice carrying a hint of laughter. "Young Master Hunt really likes meddling in our Windsor family affairs, huh? Or missing the day at the police station with me." He was helping Amelia up. Hearing this, he angrily clenched his fist, about to charge. Friends with him hurriedly held him back. Amelia held her red, swollen face, hair disheveled. Her eyes under her hair were like poisonous snakes, resentfully saying, "You dare hit me? My parents won't let you off." I sneered. "You called me sis. Sisters fighting. What can parents say? Besides, you're just adopted. Good little sister, remember not to provoke Wu next time." I looked at Sullivan being held back by the others, happily raising my right hand that had just hit someone, shaking it, showing arrogance. See clearly? This is called laying hands. Sullivan, provoked by me, erupted with terrifying strength, struggling free from those restraining him, but was immediately pulled back, only able to watch my back, cursing me as vicious. Those others trying so hard, probably after the police incident, the Hunts had instructed Sullivan's friends not to interfere in Windsor affairs anymore. The top school and my school were just a street apart. Ethan was familiar with this area. He wasn't standing at the school gate as said, but sitting behind shrubbery across the street, occasionally looking down at his phone, face worried and uneasy. Coming out the school gate, if you didn't pay attention, basically no one would see him. I sighed, walking up to him, calmly saying, "Get in the car with me." Seeing me, he looked both surprised and happy, but his movements were unnatural. Silent the whole way. I took him to the apartment gate, getting out together. After the driver drove quite far, I asked why he came to my school. He said someone mailed him. The envelope was full of secretly taken photos of me. That person arranged to meet him at the school gate today. I took the envelope he handed over, asking if he recorded. Recorded. Send it to me via Bluetooth. Ethan froze, looking at his phone for a long time without moving. The usually arrogant top school popular guy now showed a cowering look, voice very soft. Does it have to be like this? I felt somewhat helpless. The person who could take so many photos of me in uniform must have special origins, yet he dared hint at a meeting? "Ethan, I like you." He didn't expect me to say it so bluntly. His ears turned red, seemingly from embarrassment, but his voice was extremely resolute. "I like you. Unfortunately, I have no feelings for you. Actually, I was just using you. Back in sophomore year, I was bothered to annoyance. Associating with you was just to avoid those people. Several chance meetings were deliberately arranged by me." "You knew?" "That surprises me. I've used countless people like you. To me, you're all just like that. In Amelia's post, a few details were true. To achieve my goals, I've used many people, men and women. I can't even remember myself." Ethan must have seen clearly how ruthless I was. "I knew all along." He looked at me, the young man's gaze firm and passionate, as if to burn me. I laughed. "Of all the people I've met over these years, you're the foolish person I've met, knowing my true nature yet still charging in." "Hey, Ethan, I remember you were the top scorer admitted to the top school back then. Yeah. He looked somewhat dazed, not understanding why I mentioned this. There's still time. Work hard to get into an Ivy League. After graduation, come back to the Windsor group to help me. The coldness on my face melted. I showed a gentler expression, softly smiling. I feel my foundation is weak. I need to cultivate people loyal to me. He was both happy and worried. A bright smile quickly bloomed on his lips, eyes shining, full of determination. I will definitely get into an Ivy League. Before, Ethan always ranked first or second citywide. After his parents divorced, he couldn't accept it, letting himself go to silently protest them. Even so, his grades stayed in the top 100. With his foundation, just putting in a bit more effort could get him into an Ivy League. What I lacked in the Windsor group were people without much capital, but willing to be wholeheartedly for me like him. After slapping the Windsor family's darling daughter, on the way home, my phone kept ringing off the hook. William was busy with work. Alexander also had his own college life. Except for weekends, they hardly came home for dinner. Yet today, the whole family was gathered. As soon as they saw me, Eleanor and Alexander incessantly scolded, especially Alexander, so angry he wanted to hit me. Amelia acted scared, burying her head in Eleanor's arms, crying. William still acted as head of household, but I knew what Eleanor and Alexander said were what he thought inwardly. "Speak. Where did you go? Why did you hit Millie?" William asked me. I had been waiting for this moment. I showed him the letter Ethan gave me and the recording. Biting my lip, my face full of grievance. Ethan was deliberately lured. "Dad, someone wants to harm me." That day, I deliberately spoke loudly about Ethan coming to find me. That classmate is very close to Amelia. Amelia and she, one incites, one acts, slandering me. Many people were around, all gossiping about me. I was so scared. At that moment, I just wanted her to stop talking. The more I spoke, the more wronged I felt. Tears couldn't be held back, but I stubbornly bit my lip and wiped them away. The three opposite had never seen me this vulnerable. They were stunned. Compared to the wild, "if you're not popular, you're wasting your youth," I said not long ago, my current self felt unfamiliar to them. "But you still shouldn't have hit her. Look at Millie's face. What have you done?" Eleanor said angrily. "What about her face?" I glanced at her, almost laughing out loud. It looked like a pig's head. "Hitting is my fault, but I want to ask her." I paused. A cold glint flashed in my eyes. "Is everything that happened recently related to you? Did you call Ethan to school?" Hearing this, Amelia cried noisily again. "How could you think of me that way? It wasn't me. You hit me and still want to falsely accuse me? Even if you hate me, you can't slander me like this." Tearfully, Eleanor wiped her tears, turning to look at me with disappointment. "Shut up." "Apologize. If Millie doesn't forgive you, from today I don't have a sister like you," Alexander said coldly. "One tells me to apologize, one tells me to shut up. Who should I listen to?" I weakly asked. Alexander angrily grabbed my hand, trying to drag me before Amelia. I refused to go, trying to shake his hand off. "Stop making a scene." Finally, William spoke. "Sophie, go to your room to put away your books, then come down for dinner." Alexander was disappointed but silenced by a glance from his father. "Don't mention this anymore. Sophie, come with me to the study." "Yes, Dad." I withdrew my hand, disgustedly brushing it towards Alexander, then turned to go upstairs to my room. With William's ability, he definitely investigated and found Amelia was the one spreading rumors online, slandering me. A cunning fox like him only needed to think a little to know who caused today's incident. Perhaps wanting family harmony, or perhaps because of years of father-daughter feelings, he chose to cover for Amelia. That also made him feel more guilty towards me. I didn't lose anything either. At dinner, William mentioned my birthday. He said he wanted to hold a grand birthday party to formally introduce me to everyone. I knew this was his compensation. The invitation had both our names. Amelia and I celebrated our birthdays together. This party gathered almost all upper-class elite families in New York. Amelia moved through the crowd with ease. I only knew peers from school, while she knew almost everyone. The young elite of New York all followed Alexander and Sullivan. Sullivan didn't hide his dislike for me, only giving gifts to Amelia. Alexander gave gifts to both, but discerning people could tell the gift for Amelia was more precious and thoughtful. He did this to express dissatisfaction with me. When Amelia set up Sullivan to hit me before, he was indifferent, even thought I was being unreasonable. I hit Amelia, he was furious, publicly humiliated me, not even caring about family ugliness shouldn't be public. After gifting, he deliberately glared at me from afar, expressions saying if I didn't apologize, he wouldn't forgive me. I raised my glass, smiling to toast him. Sullivan, turning his head, also saw this. They seemed not to expect I could still smile. Their expressions turned strange. Logically, Amelia and I were the protagonists, but we didn't even get to sit at the main table. Sitting at the head was a big shot from the tech industry from the West Coast. Both Windsor and Hunt families were trying to cooperate with him. On his sides were fathers and sons of both families. Behind them were power holders of other major New York families. Mrs. Hunt and Eleanor sat at our table. This seating made me very uncomfortable. Amelia beside me kept boasting about how well the men at the main table treated her, making me more annoyed with her foolishness. The matter I could tolerate, but when Eleanor spoke up insisting on putting Alexander, a sophomore, into the company for training, I couldn't ignore it anymore. They were in too much of a hurry. I raised my glass, weaving through the crowd towards the guest of honor sitting center, toasting him. "Uncle, may I ask if you are the founder of the Hope Project?" "Hope Project?" The slightly tipsy man lowered his head in thought, saying, "Calling me the founder isn't wrong." "Uncle Lin, I respectfully toast you." My voice revealed joy. He looked up at me, using the back of his hand to gently push my glass away. "You're still young. What's with drinking? Not good for health." He only had one daughter, hated most seeing women not cherish themselves. William laughed, introducing me to him. After learning my achievements, he praised William for having blessings, not forgetting to encourage me, telling me to study hard. I obediently nodded, eyes firm. Since childhood, I knew the only way out was to study hard for a future. My adoptive parents didn't let me study. I worked to earn tuition, living expenses. That time was truly difficult. Here, tears suddenly fell on my strong face, but quickly I showed a grateful smile. Luckily, there are kind people like Uncle Lin. The Hope Project helped me at my most difficult time, supporting tuition. Uncle Lin, I must toast you. I tilted my head back, finishing the wine. He pretended to care, stopping me, but the smile at his mouth couldn't be hidden. Uncle Lin, I won't disappoint the Hope Project's expectations. My homeroom teacher said my current grades are top of the school historically. College application time is coming. I want to give it a try. You want to take the college entrance exams early? Everyone was surprised by my words. Yes, I want to experience the atmosphere early. Uncle Lin, don't worry, I'm very good. Absolutely won't disgrace the Hope Project. I slightly pouted, face full of confidence. The big shots present all laughed at my cuteness, clamoring to praise me for having ambition. Uncle Lin and William were praised to the skies, faces radiant. William was extremely satisfied with my performance today. After the party, he expressed support for me taking the college exams. Amelia was listless all evening, leaning on Eleanor's shoulder, acting spoiled. Eleanor gently comforted her darling daughter. After William left, Alexander blamed me. "Today is Millie's birthday. Why did you bring up your background in front of so many people? You deliberately wanted to embarrass her, didn't you?" I was in a good mood, Lunda to argue with him. "Just an adopted daughter, not worth my concern. The person I truly care about is you, dear brother." Then I threw myself into a grueling exam preparation phase. My target was Ivy League. Most upper-class business elites in New York were Ivy League graduates. Getting into these schools was the first step of my entire plan. William found me famous tutors for coaching. The teachers were strict, and I never slacked. Except for eating and sleeping, I devoted all time to studying. Most at school didn't understand my efforts. Even my followers advised me, the Windsor Heiress doesn't need to suffer like this. To these persuasions, I just smiled. My foundation was good, plus guidance from excellent teachers. I progressed quickly. In the recent citywide mock exams, I got perfect scores in some subjects, achieving the highest score citywide. William held a celebration for me. That West Coast tycoon also came. I got another chance to praise him. He was delighted, smiling nonstop. Not long after, he and the Windsor Group successfully cooperated. William gave me many rewards. Thanks to excellent grades and solid background, my reputation in elite circles rose further. Rumors from that post gradually faded. Sullivan's parents probably wanted to matchmake me with him, using his declining grades as excuse to stuff me into my one-on-one tutoring class. Sullivan, used to being a spoiled heir, didn't listen much to teachers. His progress was slow, still struggling with junior year knowledge, greatly affecting me. Since he came, Amelia often came to disturb, bringing fruits, then sweets, truly annoying. Later, she simply registered for the tutoring class. Her foundation was weak, learning progress even slower. Because the teachers were professionally able, I endured patiently, but prolonged dragging made me unable to bear it anymore. I registered at the best test prep center in New York, using my status to directly select teachers with solid expertise to teach me. I didn't tell anyone about changing teachers. The next day, I was absent. Sullivan came to class to find me. I went out with him under everyone's gaze. Amelia chased after. "Why didn't you come to tutoring yesterday?" Sullivan angrily questioned. Amelia added, "Sis, did you go find Ethan again? I heard Ethan is a bully who picks on classmates. Don't associate with him anymore." Spreading false rumors is illegal. You're even more uneducated than I thought. The Windsor family raising a dog is better than raising you. Raising a dog knows to protect its owner. Raising you only knows to slander the owner outside. I coldly faced them, not wanting to waste words. Sullivan intended to defend Amelia. I frowned softly. "Shut up. I found teachers at the center. I won't study with the teacher's dad arranged anymore. Studying with two fools only slows my progress, truly a waste of time." Having said that, I turned and left without nostalgia. Sullivan, arrogant since childhood, was insulted by me like this. He openly hated me even more. Amelia felt much more at ease, not bothering me for a long time. Final exams, my grades remained top citywide. Winter break, I continued burying myself in the center, even New Year's Eve not leaving studying. Amelia wore limited edition designer clothes parents bought. The bright red dress highlighted her stunning beauty. Alexander held a camera, taking photos of her and Eleanor. William stood aside, watching, mouth smiling dotingly. They truly looked like a family. Outside, snow fell. I curled up on the sofa by the floor-to-ceiling window. Indoor warmth just right, comfortable enough to make me sleepy. This New Year's Eve had no beatings or freezing cold. So good, I smiled, continuing to study. After returning to school, I applied to transfer to the senior class, taking the college entrance exams with them a few months later. I was assigned to test at the top school. The whole Windsor family came to cheer, even before entering the exam room, surrounded by reporters for several rounds of interviews. Ethan volunteered at the school, while guiding me, softly saying, "Wait for me at the Ivy League." I walked in the direction he pointed, indifferently replying, "I don't like waiting for others. You catch up yourself." My efforts weren't wasted. I got into an Ivy League with the city's third highest science score. The two ahead only beat me by a few points, both top school students. William was overjoyed, holding a grand celebration for me. The Windsor Group used this for brand promotion, attracting many clients. With such outstanding results, I was naturally admitted early. The Ivy League Business School truly gathered talented people. Alexander, as the Hunt heir, became student council president immediately upon enrollment, holding absolute power among students. Compared to his arrogance, I, with vice president background, willingly spent money and effort maintaining relations with subordinates, actively participating in student council and club activities, all major courses getting A's. I received countless praises. Finally, in the sophomore election, I defeated both Alexander and Sullivan to become the new student council president. Alexander was a senior, focused on work. Though defeated surprised him, he didn't care much. The one who truly couldn't accept was Sullivan. Sullivan Hunt, the heir to a vast empire, found himself playing second fiddle for the first time in his life. Losing to Alexander Windsor was one thing, but being defeated by a girl like me? Seeing his blatant resentment, I deliberately provoked him. "You're so utterly useless. Any children you have probably won't even carry your last name. Oh, and I heard the student council president wields significant power here. Do remember to protect little Amelia well," I said, my voice dripping with false sweetness. He still clung to his white knight persona, puffing up angrily. "If you dare bully Millie, I won't let you off." I crossed my arms, my expression turning icy. "She's just a follower. The only reason I'm being remotely pleasant to her now is for your sake. You see, the Windsor Group plans to expand to the West Coast soon. After you and I are married, I'll simply ask Father to find her a suitably wealthy husband out there for a strategic alliance. Consider it repayment for all those years of our upbringing." "Don't you dare dream of it. She's your sister. How can you be so cruel?" he retorted, horrified. I shrugged. "Marrying a rich businessman for a life of comfort, what's cruel about that? If you hate my cruelty so much, then you save her. Support her yourself. Make her your mistress. I certainly won't stand in your way." With that, I gave him a sharp, knowing smile. Sullivan flew into a rage, cursing me a vicious witch and declaring he would never marry me. At the subsequent family meeting to discuss the marriage alliance, he caused a scene, insisting he would only marry Amelia. The Windsors, predictably, rallied to defend her, scrambling to protect the engagement. Back at the Windsor mansion, I unleashed the performance of a lifetime. I swept everything off the coffee table, sending crystals shattering across the floor, my composure utterly shattered, playing the part of a heartbroken, hysterical daughter. "I'm your biological daughter. The one engaged to the Hunts should be me. She's just adopted. What right does she have to take what's mine?" I shrieked, tears streaming down my face. Tears of manufactured fury, not grief. "I know she has years of history with all of you, but after everything I've done, after how hard I've tried, why do you still favor her? If I'd known it would be like this, I never would have come back." Before this, even in our disagreements, I had always maintained a cold, detached composure. They had never seen me unravel like this. They were initially shocked, ready to scold my outburst, but my words, this raw, despairing display of the wounded child, made them swallow their reprimands. It turned out my previous aloofness was just a brave front. It turned out I had studied so relentlessly, clawed my way to the top just for a shred of their recognition. It turned out I wasn't cold and difficult by nature. I was just a girl who had never been loved, who didn't know how to be close. They tried to offer guilty, placating words, but I was in full theatrical mode, lashing out at anyone who dared speak. "Mom, you always say in your heart, Amelia and I are the same. Then why, on the very day I returned, the second she started crying, you left me to go comfort her? She set me up for bullying at school, got me slapped by Sullivan, and the first thing you did when you arrived was check on her. Even knowing what she did, you made excuses. She has no sense of security? Well, what about my sense of security? If you love your adopted daughter so much, why did you even bother having me?" I whirled at Alexander. "And you, Alexander, stop with the hypocrisy. If you hadn't secretly signaled your disdain to everyone at school, would I have been treated like an outcast? With your standing in our circles, if you had truly accepted me as your sister from the beginning, would Sullivan have ever dared lay hands on me? And on my birthday, the one who publicly humiliated me was you. How dare you stand there and spout these righteous platitudes?" My gaze finally landed on a pale Amelia. "And you, stop pretending. The day I came home, you cried on purpose to intimidate me. The next day at school, you tried to turn the entire student body against me. I barely brushed your hand, and you fell over as if hit by a hurricane. The Windsors raised you strong and healthy, yet you put on this delicate damsel in distress act. Honestly, heaven shouldn't have let you live past 17. Finally, I turned my tear-streaked, devastated face to William. Dad, I knew a long time ago that those vicious rumors in high school were spread by Amelia. She was the one who called Ethan to school. She wanted the Hunts to drop me as the bride, so she dumped all the blame on my head. And you covered for her through it all. My voice broke into a sob, the picture of immense, inconsolable hurt. You find Amelia a perfect match, Sullivan Hunt. Alexander got his company shares as a sophomore. And me, I tried so hard. I pushed myself to be the best just for you to look at me. Why are you all so biased against me? I was crying, but my demands through the tears were crystal clear. Normally, I never asked for anything, never competed with Amelia for their affection. This calculated meltdown was designed to transform all my accumulated grievances into a heavy burden of guilt on their shoulders. Eleanor burst into tears upon hearing this. William and Alexander wore expressions of profound guilt and discomfort. Only Amelia looked truly frightened, her face pale. To compensate me, William promised to bring me into the Windsor group, giving me the 5% of shares originally earmarked for Amelia. Combined with the 5% promised earlier, I now held 10%. Amelia, freshly exposed, didn't dare utter a word of objection. Regarding the Windsor-Hunt alliance, even though she wouldn't get shares, the Windsors would provide a dowry lavish enough to keep the Hunts from complaining. William offered these concessions for two reasons. First, he likely believed my desire to join the company was just an angry outburst. Second, he had probably wanted to claw back those shares promised to Amelia for a while. My dramatic scene gave him the perfect, sympathetic excuse. Moreover, I appeared so emotionally starved, he probably thought he could pacify me with a few kind words later and eventually reclaim those shares for his son. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. After my performance, Eleanor and Alexander were swamped with remorse. They began treating me with exaggerated attentiveness, gifts flowing my way constantly. When I first returned to the Windsors, I hadn't seen much money. This tactic might have worked on me then, but now I lacked for nothing. I could buy anything I desired. Before, I might have patiently endured their conversations, but now, after clearing the air, I would coldly turn away the moment I saw them, not granting them so much as a glance. Sullivan heard about my breakdown over him, and in a stunning display of ego, came to see me again, his tone almost gentle. I didn't realize you had feelings for me. I thought you just wanted to take everything from Millie. It seems all those things before, you were just trying to get my attention. He continued, Alexander told me everything Millie did to you. You're not as vicious as you seemed. You never actively hurt her all these years. We misunderstood you. But I'm sorry, I promised I would always protect Millie. His self-absorption was astounding. I listened until my patience ran out. You are truly contemptible going back and forth like this. Have you developed feelings for me or not? You and I have never gotten along. I'm genuinely curious. Do you like this face of mine, or are you just obsessed because you lost to me so many times? Sullivan's face darkened with anger. Stop being so full of yourself. If it weren't for Alexander, I wouldn't have come to comfort you. Weren't you the one being presumptuous first? I said coldly, pushing past him to leave. I had achieved my recent goals. I no longer felt the need to endure anyone, especially him, especially when he brought Alexander into it. William had only one son, Alexander, groomed since birth to be the heir. Upon entering his Ivy League university, Alexander had been gifted a generous 20% of company shares. Giving his daughter a mere 5% had been a stingy, reluctant gesture. If I hadn't accurately guessed William's thoughts and seized the perfect moment to gamble on this outburst, I might have ended up like Amelia, empty-handed. I understood that what I had now was likely the maximum William was willing to give, so there was no more need to play the obedient daughter. I could begin, slowly, to let my claws show. When we both entered the company, Alexander was given the Windsor Group's prestigious 5-star hotel chain, one of its cornerstone assets. I was given a small, failing game development company. William wanted me to taste failure, to understand the difficulty and retreat gracefully. Even if I didn't want to retreat, this little company wouldn't last long on its own. In truth, this game company had once been promising. Years ago, seeing the internet boom's massive profits, the Windsor Group had tried to ride the wave. They'd invested heavily, recruited top talent. Perhaps the initial investment was too large, the fear of loss too great, because most of their products ended up as cheap copies of successful games, a futile attempt to replicate others' success. The result was universal derision upon launch and lawsuits from several original developers. In everyone else's eyes, this company had no future. In my eyes, it was a heaven-sent opportunity. In the digital age, gaming led trends. I had money, I had connections, and I was willing to gamble. All I lacked was the right talent. After several career fairs, I set my sights on a team of young graduates. Coincidentally, they were also from an Ivy League. The team leader was a computer science genius, Leo Joe. I'd made contact a few times. Maintaining that connection, I soon approached them with sincerity and serious investment. Their dream was to create a game world based on epic mythological lore. The team was mostly recent graduates, their eyes alight with ambition. Their passionate, dream-chasing energy was contagious, even stirring the jaded old employees just going through the motions. Driven by their own vision, most of the young team voluntarily worked overtime. Some even kept fold-out beds at the office when the workload was heavy. I maintained a consistently supportive attitude, backing their decisions, creating an environment where these young minds could pursue their ambitions without fear, united towards a single goal. Once the company stabilized, my first move was to rebrand the company as Dreamweaver Studios. Chasing dreams, the name itself began to attract a flood of young, talented applicants. The gaming industry is a field driven by youth and innovation. The Mythos project required immense funding and time, with no short-term profit in sight. So, in the early stages, I focused on supporting the other team's unique, smaller game projects, leveraging my personal fame for promotion, which brought in considerable revenue. Back then, my early college admission had caused a stir. Many still remembered me for my looks, my background, and my academic prowess. This time, appearing in the public eye as the CEO of a company, dressed in sharp professional attire, giving interviews to the media about the gaming industry, with all these factors combined, I again became a hot topic on social media. She's the Windsor heiress who aced her college entrance exams early, got into an Ivy League ranked third in the city. Stunning and so confident. A true elite young lady, that elegant aura, is this not the ultimate strong female lead novel trope come to life? A CEO before even graduating, the old sayings were right. The top scholar is truly the most impressive. Many discussed me online. More than a few were curious about what kind of games I would make. Thanks to the internet's love for drama, downloads for our newly released titles skyrocketed, quickly climbing the charts. The game's quality retained a loyal user base, and our reputation spread. Dreamweaver Studios and I had pulled off a remarkable turnaround. In business circles, people began referring to me as Little CEO Windsor. However, this title now had two bearers. Amelia and Sullivan's engagement proceeded without a hitch. Not long after, the Windsor and Hunt families held a lavish engagement party. I did not attend. Alexander called me furious. "Do you have any idea how many rumors are flying because of the scene you caused?" "I'm busy," I replied flatly after he finished. "I'm aware now. Thanks for the 2 updates." Then I hung up. I purchased a few apartments, using my hectic work and study schedule as an excuse to live separately, rarely returning to the Windsor mansion. The next time I saw Alexander was at a business gala. He demanded to know why I hadn't replied to his messages, mentioning that Eleanor's health hadn't been good lately and that I should visit. "I'm not a doctor," I said, gently swirling the dark red wine in my glass. "What good would seeing me do?" "How long are you going to keep sulking?" he frowned, clearly displeased by my indifference. "When I was little, every time I was sick, I went to the hospital alone. No one ever came to visit. Mom isn't a child anymore. She's hardly a helpless invalid." My coldness ignited his anger. "She's your mother. I know she gave birth to me. I will fulfill my filial duty to support her. At present, I'm earning the money to do just that. Mom doesn't need money. She just wants to see you." "What's wrong with money?" I countered. "You people only ever gave me money too. You reap what you sow. Don't be so greedy." "Isn't it because you're always avoiding us?" Millie knew Mom wasn't well. She postponed her own exams to stay home and care for her. If you had even 1/10 of her consideration, our family wouldn't be in this state, he said, his tone accusatory. The very first day I returned to the Windsors, I was set up by Amelia. You only believed her. If I hadn't prepared evidence, who knows how much more I would have been bullied. My heart has grown this cold. How do you have the nerve to blame me for keeping the distance? My words left him momentarily speechless. He lowered his voice, attempting an emotional appeal. This time, Mom was upset because of Dad, sis. I cut him off coldly. Mom was just upset by Dad. William Windsor's extracurricular activities are hardly a secret. Eleanor has always chosen to look the other way. This time, it was because my situation affected her that she dared to voice a few complaints. William resented her overstepping. And her own biological son, I shot him a pointed look, not only didn't defend her, but told her to be more open-minded and not make a scene. That's what landed her in the hospital that day. Alexander, born the Windsor Crown Prince, had enjoyed every privilege and power bestowed upon a male heir. Now holding significant sway within the corporation, he understood the intoxicating nature of that power all too well. As long as William didn't produce another son to challenge him, Alexander was willing to extend a degree of understanding towards his father's behavior. He was the one who angered their mother into the hospital, yet he didn't take care of her himself or apologize. Instead, he let his sister sacrifice her exam preparation to do it. A person who couldn't even meet the most basic moral standards himself, yet stood on a high horse lecturing others? Every time I heard him speak, I felt second-hand embarrassment. He looked bewildered. Sophia, have you lost your mind, biting the head off anyone you meet? Amelia taking care of Mom is her being filial. You think everyone is as selfish as you? I glanced at him, finding it almost laughable. Her condition wasn't serious enough for hospitalization. The house is full of staff. Did it require her to func-chi exams to provide care? Are the hired help inferior to a biological daughter? Or is it that Amelia staying home can comfort Mom, have heart-to-hearts to relieve her boredom? I mimicked his earlier justification. He spoke as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Not that she voluntarily func-chi exams, but that he felt she should stay with their mother. But you didn't say it outright, did you? She simply read your intention and proactively suggested it, am I right? He and William often said Amelia was spoiled and willful, but in reality, her so-called willfulness always operated within the boundaries they permitted. She constantly watched their expressions to guide her actions. I made no effort to hide my disgust. Alexander Windsor, stop hovering around me. You're ruining my appetite. Alexander valued his pride. After that unpleasant exchange, he didn't seek me out again. Our next encounter was during a minor family holiday where the Windsors had a tradition of making dumplings together. The two small games Dreamweaver had released were performing well, with stable revenue. I couldn't hide my good mood. While we shaped dumplings, Eleanor tried to make conversation with me, her tone careful. The gazes of the Windsor siblings from across the room felt like they were trying to bore holes through me. William pretended not to notice, smiling as he instructed a servant to take photos, capturing the warm family moment. When I returned to my room, Amelia followed me in, locking the door behind her. She turned, her expression fierce. "Where were you on Christmas Eve?" "Where I am is none of your business." My response enraged her. "Mine and Sullivan's wedding date is set. We'll register as soon as we're legal age. No matter how much of a scene you make, there's no chance for you." Then, as if remembering something, a triumphant smile spread on her face. "They only feel guilty temporarily. It's happened before, but whenever there's conflicts between us, they'll always take my side." I waited silently for her to finish, looked at the foolish smile on her face, and couldn't help but laugh. If everything as you say, if your parents dote on you so immensely, then why haven't you managed to secure a single tangible asset from the Windsor fortune? She glared at me resentfully. "Isn't that because of you? We fought tooth and nail over a mere 5% of shares, while Alexander was handed 20% the moment he stepped into college. It's clear your parents favor him the most. Why don't I see you competing with him for their affection?" "You are." She was speechless, eyes wide, unable to retort. Because you know you can't win. In this house, he was born a tier above you. The best you can do is curry his favor so he condescends to treat you well. Nonsense. Amelia refused to admit it. My parents love me the most. Mom tutored me first since I was little. She never tutored Alexander or you. Anything I wanted, they gave it to me. That's because Alexander is being groomed as the heir. Your value is in being raised well and then married off to form a beneficial alliance. That's it. The things you desire never encroach on Alexander's core interests, and the Windsors are fabulously wealthy. Spending money to indulge you is no hardship. If you're so brave, why don't you make a scene? Demand they break off your engagement. Demand shares and a senior executive position in the group. Let's see if they continue to indulge you then. My words left her momentarily mute, but she quickly regained her composure. You think you're so clever. I have no reason to break off the engagement. I have my own dreams. I don't care about the Windsor assets. I smiled faintly. You're talking about your dream of becoming a dancer, I presume? If it were truly that important, why did you feng-chi the opportunity to study abroad and stay here? If I guess correctly, the ones who kept you here are Dad and Alexander. They said they didn't want you so far from home, with no one to look after you. But the truth is, they were afraid if you went abroad, Sullivan's affections might wander. Last time, when Mom was upset with them, they made you postpone your exams, the ones you'd prepared for so diligently, to stay home and care for her. Shut up! Amelia didn't want to hear any more. Whether it's driving a wedge or not, you understand perfectly well. If you want to dream, close the door and dream by yourself. Don't put on these performances in front of me. I have no interest in acting in anyone else's drama. Get out. Amelia didn't move, instead sneering at me. You talk a big game. Aren't you just jealous that I have someone who loves me? You tried to seduce Sullivan just to provoke me. But let me tell you, Sullivan's heart belongs only to me. I will always be the one our parents love most. Everything you've done is useless. She had always convinced herself she was the central figure in my emotional world. Seeing my silence, she pressed angrily. Dare you say you weren't with Sullivan that Christmas Eve? I remained utterly indifferent. That Christmas Eve, I was working. I have zero interest in useless men who are inferior to me in every conceivable way. That's the truth. Now Amelia was stunned. She had always believed I was the only threat she needed to guard against. But someone born with a silver spoon like Sullivan, how could he lack for temptations? In the elite circles he moved in, beautiful women were fixtures at every party. Expecting men like them to remain pure was more difficult than reaching heaven. William and Eleanor's relationship had been good in their youth. At best, he had managed to avoid fathering illegitimate children. Compared to other men of similar wealth, some on their fourth or fifth wife, others with love children showing up at the door, he was considered relatively good. Amelia, pampered since infancy, how could she possibly tolerate betrayal? She hired a private investigator and caught Sullivan at a gathering. Rumor had it, Sullivan lost a drinking game. A girl was feeding him shots mouth to mouth. He had to finish the glass. He was only on the second round when Amelia dragged the girl off his lap by her hair. Amelia caused a huge scene. Sullivan had to explain himself and even chased after her when she ran out. The childhood sweethearts weathered that particular storm, but then Amelia caught him a few more times, much to the annoyance of his friends. Feeling his reputation was suffering, Sullivan finally snapped and harshly rebuked Amelia. She ran home tearful, demanding the engagement be called off. William said he would speak to the Hunts about disciplining Sullivan, then spent a long time coaxing and reasoning with Amelia. Feeling supported, she grew even more defiant. When Sullivan called, she outright declared she wanted to break the engagement. William's kindly facade immediately vanished. The moment the words "break the engagement" left Amelia's lips, he slapped her. The slap left Amelia reeling. She stared at William, utterly bewildered. Eleanor cried out, hugging Amelia. "Why did you hit her? Can't we talk about this properly?" Alexander took the phone from Amelia's hand, speaking quietly to Sullivan on the other end. I alone relaxed on the sofa, thoroughly enjoying the family drama. William immediately began apologizing to Amelia, his voice soft and coaxing. Alexander chimed in beside him. Amelia sobbed in Eleanor's arms. Eleanor, perhaps remembering her own experiences, could only shed silent, helpless tears for her daughter's future. The Windsor father and son were masters at manipulating Amelia's psyche. Before long, she was pacified, nodding obediently, and even apologizing to them. The drama had concluded. I had seen enough. A glamorous but hollow marriage. What value did it truly hold? She had schemed for this union, but with a man like Sullivan, how much happiness could she possibly find? Just contemplating her bleak future filled me with a perverse sense of satisfaction. Ethan drove to pick me up. He hadn't graduated yet and couldn't officially work at the company, so he helped me with some external matters. CEO Windsor seems to be in an excellent mood today, he remarked with a smile. Indeed, I smiled. Watching hypocrites finally have their masks torn off is truly entertaining. You've worked hard. Game development was prohibitively expensive. The revenue from Dreamweaver's first 2 small games were entirely funneled into the financial black hole that was the Mythos project. The company stayed afloat solely on the strength of my personal funds. Leo Joe and the team, aware of the difficulties, proactively suggested pay cuts. I refused. Mythos is everyone's dream. I can't contribute to the creative side. All I can do is provide some financial backing. Leave the logistics to me. Your job is to charge forward without worry. My words moved them deeply, and they worked with relentless overtime dedication. Finally, after a year and a half, the game entered open beta. As predicted, it was met with widespread acclaim. I invested heavily in promotion, even personally attending the launch press conference. After introducing the game, I shared the story of the team's struggles. When this team first formed, almost all were recent Ivy League graduates, hardcore gaming enthusiasts, united by a single shared dream: to bring a world of epic mythology into the global gaming industry. In this narrative, my role was that of a high-achieving, wealthy junior executive personally moved by their vision. Leo Zoe was handsome and bright. His core team members, dressed in neat suits and dresses, were equally impressive. Wherever the camera panned, young, passionate faces filled the screen. Initially, the story of the team became more famous than the game itself. Netizens even began shipping Leo and me romantically. Why else would she invest so much money and support him like that? Screenshots of our work group chats were leaked. Images of my holiday bonus messages and red packets circulated online, shared by bloggers. Netizens began calling Dreamweaver Studios the most dream-worthy company to work for. Most traditional entrepreneurs disliked self-promotion and couldn't stomach the potential negativity from online communities. For me, success was paramount. I didn't care about my public image. As I predicted, that series of calculated moves attracted a massive wave of players. On launch day, the game's servers were so overwhelmed they crashed. Mythos did not disappoint. Its revenue grew exponentially, swiftly becoming a rising star in the gaming world. Finally, the Windsor father and son began to notice something was amiss. Before William, I had always cultivated the image of a love-starved girl clinging to her father. Everything I did, in their eyes, was just a desperate bid for their attention. They had never truly paid attention to me, never noticed Dreamweaver's earlier losses. The daily revenue figures from Mythos left them utterly astonished. They had never imagined that their overlooked, emotional daughter could achieve something of this magnitude. The Windsors used the pretext of celebrating my success to host a family dinner. The moment we sat down, they showered me with concerned questions, finally giving me a taste of the treatment Amelia usually enjoyed. Amelia shot me looks that could kill. Once they thought they had softened me, they finally revealed their true intention. They wanted me to hand over Dreamweaver Studios to Alexander. I refused immediately, then launched into a tearful tirade about my struggles, even demanding they pay me back for my investment. Seizing the moment, Alexander put on a pitying act, telling me not to worry, that they would handle things from now on. I sniffed dismissively. Years of my blood, sweat, and tears, and you want me to stop worrying so you can handle it? You've managed the family's flagship hotel for years. What remarkable achievements have you brought about?" I ridiculed Alexander openly. William remained silent, but the irritation on his face was plain. They had finally realized my ambition. The only thing left between us was the pretense of family harmony. Mythos was a true success. Both its PC and mobile versions developed robustly, recouping the investment much faster than I had anticipated. Thanks to Dreamweaver's soaring reputation, the company amassed a huge fan base, saving me a fortune in marketing costs. I graduated from the Ivy League and poured my full energy into my career. More and more of Dreamweaver's projects gradually became vital components of the Windsor Group, forming a powerful, independent sector in the gaming market. Profits soon surpassed those of other divisions, establishing Dreamweaver as the leading revenue generator for the Windsor Group. At board meetings, I now sat at William's right hand. Alexander and I were in open opposition, neither yielding an inch during our clashes. The company was clearly split into two factions. Eleanor, wishing for family harmony, tried to advise me several times, but I brushed her off. Seeing my determination, she finally gave up. One day, she transferred her own 10% stake in the Windsor Group to me. Seeing my stunned expression, she explained somewhat awkwardly, "Millie and Sullivan are doing well. I'm content. You never asked me for anything. This is all I can do for you." Though she had her biases, she was without a doubt the person in this family who cared for me the most. "Sophia, do you hate me very much?" she asked quietly. "No," I replied honestly. "You have money and time. You're free to dote on whomever you wish. In fact, Amelia never truly harmed my interests. On the contrary, she inadvertently helped me a lot." Eleanor hadn't expected such a rational answer. She stood there stunned for a long moment. "Take care of yourself, Mom. I'll visit when I have time." I offered her a rare, gentle smile. Eleanor nodded, holding my hand tightly for a long moment before finally letting go. As I watched her slightly stooped figure walk away, my heart remained perfectly calm. With my 20% stake plus control of Dreamweaver Studios, I was successfully elected as the new CEO of the Windsor Group. Alexander was thoroughly sidelined. Under my leadership, the Windsor Group skillfully rode the digital wave, transforming itself and steadily leaving its former rival, the Hunt Group, far behind. On domestic wealth rankings, I soon left both Alexander Windsor and Sullivan Hunt in the dust. "Chairman?" Ethan's voice came through the phone, brimming with glee. I heard little CEO Windsor and little CEO Hunt were absolutely livid today. "Oh, what happened?" I asked, not looking up from the financial report on my desk. At the Zhang family dinner, someone remarked that New York's two most famous young masters aren't worth a single chairman, meaning you. They said it right, didn't they? Once you have knowledge, skill, and wealth of your own, men who know nothing but relying on their family name are nothing but stones on the roadside. I said they were absolutely right, didn't I?